This video is sponsored by Shortform. There it is. So now what? Why are so many people starting podcasts? That's the big question I had when I first started my podcast. And after 6 months, 10 episodes, and 1 full season, podcasting has changed my life, transforming my approach to communication, productivity, and content creation forever. If it's your first time here, my name is Jack Wang, a scientist, college professor, and the 2020 Australian University Teacher of the Year. I discuss science, technology, and productivity. Today, let's answer 7 common questions people have before starting their own podcast, as well as 7 productivity habits that podcasting has taught me. Starting with 7. Where should you start? The technical part of starting a podcast has never been simpler. Find your hosting platform, a free one if you like, pick a title, make a square cover art, record the audio on your phone, then upload. You get a unique link for your podcast's RSS feed, which you can then post all over the internet. If only it was that easy, right? Turns out the hardest part about podcasting is on the creative side. What should I talk about? Who should I interview, if anyone? How long should the episodes be? My day job is a scientist and college professor, so podcasting is not part of my training. It's so different from my day job, in fact, that I had to develop a new productivity habit just to figure it all out. In the book, The Startup of You, written by one of the co-founders of LinkedIn, they discuss the importance of treating your career like a startup. You have to be okay with not knowing it all and have the confidence to figure it out completely from scratch. I'm an expert in my field, but I'm a complete beginner in podcasts, which, if you like, is my own version of a startup. The episodic nature of podcasting really helped me build a system for learning one small piece of the puzzle at a time. Episode 1, just focus on feeling comfortable on mic. Episode 2, find the most relevant topics to talk about. Episode 3, build a theme across the episodes. There's real comfort in knowing that you will never know everything, and all we can solve is one problem at a time. 6, what should you talk about on a podcast? The most successful podcasts, they're all really different from one another, so there's no one clear formula we can all use to figure out what to talk about. 16 undeniable laws of communication stress the importance of being authentic and credible to communicate value for others. The episodic nature of podcasts works to your advantage here. Look at the analytics to see which topics or keywords generate the most downloads or views, and you can figure out where you can provide your unique value to others. I've worked as a scientist for 20 years, so scientific knowledge is my expertise, but giving out definitions to scientific jargon doesn't really benefit anyone. It's like high school science class, all that jargon starts to go over your head after a while. I've worked in high pressure environments at the cutting edge of innovation and learned transferable skills about productivity that aren't easily Googleable. As soon as I started talking about this, the analytics showed upward trends. The amount of personal feedback you receive by consistently making online content like podcasts is staggering. Most people spend their whole careers trying to figure out how to pitch themselves in a job market, but because of my podcast, it only took me 6 months. To build this YouTube channel and my podcast, I needed a much broader knowledge base on topics like career success, business, and communication to create genuine value for my audience. And all of these are book genres available on Shortform, the sponsor of this episode, and the best way to learn ideas from outside your comfort zone. I use Shortform to sharpen my thinking for this episode, using Shortform's one-page summaries to get a quick sense if this book was worth my time, followed by the chapter-by-chapter guide, including original commentary and book recommendations. There's even an app on your phone, which includes audio summaries, so there's never an excuse to be out of touch with the latest books while you're on the go. Shortform have also just launched Shortform AI, a browser extension that harnesses AI to summarize journal articles or websites using everyday language, which saved me a lot of time when doing research for the podcast. If you're interested, you can get a free Shortform trial with unlimited access for 5 days and a 20% discount if you choose to go for the annual subscription, which includes unlimited access to that Shortform AI browser extension through my unique link, shortform.com/JackW. Again, that's shortform.com/JackW. And thank you to Shortform for sponsoring this episode. 5. Can I make money from podcasts. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries changed my whole philosophy about monetization. This book is legendary in the tech community, and it talks about the idea of an MVP, minimum viable product, the simplest version of a product that will still sell and be viable. I thought you needed to spend a huge amount of time honing the perfect podcast before A, starting one, or B, any monetization becomes possible. But the Lean Startup taught me to view each new podcast episode as another attempt at a minimum viable product that people will want to listen to. So yes, of course, you can make money from podcasts, ad reads, sponsored episodes, AdSense on YouTube, but it doesn't make sense to think about this until you found your podcast MVP, the value you bring to your audience. Fourth, once you run out of things to say, believe it or not, I'm an introvert, so I wasn't sure I would last beyond one podcast episode. When you make online content, you need to talk about something that is always changing. New iPhones, new tech, new music, headlines. That way you can be the constant that guides people through all the chaos. I built my podcast, Crossover Connections with Jack Wang, on the latest news headlines in science and tech. Every episode is a new headline, another attempt at interpreting what this discovery means for our jobs and everyday lives. Even if you're not the person driving the innovation, you can benefit a lot just by discussing it. In Larry Keeley's book, 10 Types of Innovation, they outline the difference between core products versus interfacing products. Core products are things like a brand new iPhone, a new drug to treat a disease, but just as valuable are the interfacing products. New ways of interacting with other things, say a new website or a new podcast. There's a lot of value in being the interface between an audience and innovation. Bringing more attention to a new idea is just as important as coming up with that idea in the first place. Question 3. Who's going to care? Nobody, actually. That's a huge blessing in disguise. The book Contagious by marketing expert Jonah Berger talks about 3 steps to make an idea catch on. Make it attractive, make it engaging, and give people value. The podcasts that blow up big straight away, usually people who are already famous in other fields, TV, movies, sports, or journalism. For the rest of us, we have to figure out what it is about us that can make people interested. I use podcasting as market research. I talked about a whole range of very different topics all in one episode to see which one gets the most amount of traction. And through a process of elimination, you'll eventually find a topic people care about. That's actually the easy part, because once people find you, you need to deliver. If people think your podcast should be interesting, but after checking out realize it's not very engaging, you've lost them forever. They'll never come back. That's why it's a huge blessing that we are podcasting in relative obscurity at the beginning. Spend the time, get the reps, and improve at your craft while no one is watching or listening. Question 2. When do you find the time? Have you heard of Parkinson's law, that the amount of work expands to fill the time available for its completion? If a report is due in 1 hour's time, you'll find a way to get it done in an hour. If that same report is due in a month's time, you'll procrastinate, do a lot more research, get in your own head, and you'll take that full month to do what should have taken you 1 hour. And the worst part is it might not even be any better in quality. Finding the time to do a podcast alongside YouTube, my website, my email newsletter, as well as my full-time day job as a scientist and college professor seemed impossible at the outset. But work filled the time available for its completion. I set 1 hour aside for reading new articles, doing the research, 1 hour to record the podcast, about 3 hours to edit each episode. So altogether, that's 5 hours a fortnight. Yes, I can easily spend 10 times more time, but can I guarantee the episodes will be 10 times better? It's the same idea of the MVP, minimum viable product. You'd be better off making your episodes as quickly as possible, learning from each one, only to make the next one better. If you do this over a long enough period of time, your podcast will have no choice to get better, and you're not killing yourself trying to make each one perfect. Most of my views still come from non-subscribers, and every little bit helps the YouTube algorithm, especially for smaller channels. You can find out more about my work at jackwang.com.au or subscribe to my email newsletter and podcast, Crossover Connections with Jack Wang. All of the links are in the description and show notes below. And now back to question 1. Why should you keep going? Every productivity tip I've given in this episode only works if you keep working. In the book, First Things First by Stephen Covey, the way to get things done is to rank tasks using a scale of significance and focus on doing the tasks that impact your long-term goals first. Over the next 5 years, I want to help 1 million people succeed in their careers, and my podcast is a big part of that vision. Because it's significant and it has impact on my long-term goals, I will keep making time to do it. What's your vision for the next phase of your career? And what skills do you need to learn to get there? If you're interested in how I use this YouTube channel to maximize my productivity in addition to my podcast, you can find that video linked here. Thanks for watching and listening. I'm Jack. Hope to connect with you again next time around.